Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Sip. My name is Oliver and my mission is to bring you closer to organic Japanese green tea. And today what we're gonna dive into is what are actually the sweetest tea in taste. So we got a question from Jorge, one of our followers on Instagram, and he asks, which tea leaves taste better? The ones with more shade or the ones with more sunlight? By flavor only, not including caffeine content. So Jorge, when we go into your question, is actually, okay, taste is always a very personal thing, but as I'm reading your question is that what are you actually looking for is a little bit of a smoother taste, and this is made mainly by teas which are shaded. So teas which are tea leaves which have seen shade, and this can happen in several forms. Either you have a field which is close to trees or anything which then naturally throw shades on the tea plants, or you have a tea net, a so-called kabuse, which is actually covering the tea. And when this actually is done, what happens in the tea plant is that the theanine, which is an amino acid, it doesn't turn to be into a catechins. What happens when the sunlight actually touches the tea leaves, it does make that the tea leaf, on the one hand it grows bigger, and on the other hand also there are more nutrients coming into the leaves. But with this additional portion of nutrients which are coming to the leaves, then also the stringency clearly goes up. So when we talk about smooth, fine, sweet taste in a tea, here we talk about a shaded tea which then produces or has the higher amount of theanine, which then counterbalances the catechins. So what you have is actually that you have the sun touching the leaves, but as soon as we get close to the harvest, then the small leaves, the fine leaves, they grow quite fast, and then the tea plant has to be covered just to keep the sweet and smooth taste of the plant. And this you can see then especially with leaves which are in a darker color. So I brought here with me two different kinds of tea. One is a normal unshaded sencha, and one is the shaded gyokuro, so a tea which is shaded up to 21 days. And what you can see is clearly that the shaded or the unshaded sencha has quite a little bit of more greener and less dark leaves, a little bit less kind of this intense dark shade, deep green color, while it goes nearly a little bit into a slight brownish color profile. Meanwhile, the gyokuro, which is the dark green and intense green color, there you can really see that the gyokuro has this beautiful kind of dark green, rich, nutrient rich also color. Because what happens as well is actually when you shade the tea plant, the plant absorbs more and more nutrients, because it is kind of a stress situation for the tea plant when the sunlight is covered. So she produces much chlorophyll, so the amount of chlorophyll is higher, it protects itself, so the caffeine content shoots up as well, that the plant kind of protects itself from the bugs, and for this it starts to absorb a lot of nutrients. And that's why often you see that when you try a shaded tea, then the flavor is actually quite more complex and very diverse, and you have sweet notes, you have nutty notes, you have a little bit of grassy notes, and you have especially also this typical savory umami flavor profile in the tea plant. But what is actually something which is not so much known, and which is easy and a simple way also to do, is that the farmer steams the leaves in a deep steaming process. What does this mean? So when a deep steaming process is applied, it happens that the tea leaves, instead of being 30 to 45 seconds, they are in a steaming bath of 90 degrees or even 100 degrees Celsius for more than 1 minute. And what this does is that actually it breaks or it softens the cell membrane. And this now you can see when we go from the sencha to the Gyokuro, we see now the Fukamachi sencha. And here with the Fukamachi sencha, what we can see is that the tea leaves, they get more brittle. Also in aesthetic aspects, it's not such a beautiful tea. It looks a little bit like a broken down tea, and nearly a dusty tea. But what it actually does is that the tea itself kind of breaks down the cell membranes, and it also breaks into smaller particles, so more nutrients go into and faster also into the water, so you don't have to brew the Fukamachi such a long time. And what is also nice is actually that thanks to the deep steaming, you have the bitter particles which are suppressed. And this is something which was invented especially after the Second World War. The Second World War bringing Japan to the situation that the export of tea to the US was not so easy anymore, so they had to sell it inside of their country, and apparently the Japanese were a little bit more demanding on the tea they drank, and they didn't want so much these bitter teas from Shizuoka. And what they found out is by just deep steaming lower quality leaves, they could push out a little bit more this astringent part, this astringent taste profile, and then the taste of the Fukamachi kind of could upgrade a little bit the lower quality leaves. But with the time, what the Japanese found out is that if they take higher or high quality leaves and they make this Fukamachi kind of process with them, that the tea can become very, very interesting in terms of taste, because it has this savory sweetness, no grassiness from the sencha, and really goes in the direction of the Gyokuro, and then without being a Gyokuro, so with a small or with a little advantage in pricing as well. So this tea came quite into vogue over time, and I believe this is a tea which is very interesting due to a little bit of a lower price point compared to Gyokuro. It's not so strong in caffeine as the Gyokuro, and it also can be a very, very good solution if you like a little bit the savory profile, when you're not looking too much for the vegetal or grassy taste in a tea, but you want to have this smooth sweetness. And for this one here, I brought also a Fukamachi, which is 1 week shaded. So this is a shaded tea, so very sweet tea, but it's even made sweeter thanks to the Fukamachi steaming process. So let's go into this and let's just have a taste of this Fukamachi. It's coming from the south, this one here. It's a good mix of Yabukita and Samidori. So two different tea breeds, and what is nice and what you'll see is that I really can just steep it for only 40-45 seconds, and this tea will be already down. What we will see in the first steeping is that we will have a nice green color with a little bit of a golden subtone, and then it will change in the second steeping, especially more into this more intense, strong green tea or green color, which is known for the Fukamachi. What is nice also for matcha drinkers out there, if you like matcha and you like a little bit these particles, as the tea has a little bit of smaller parts in it, then this tea can be absolutely something for you, because you drink in the end a slight shot of smaller particles, which can or might remind you a little bit of matcha. So let's go already with the first one. So we see already now the tea is quite green in its color, which you can see here. So a beautiful green color. In terms of taste, so you can see first, before I go into the taste, the particles which are swimming in the tea. So there are smaller particles in the tea. And in terms of taste, it's just beautiful, florally, fruity. There's a little bit of freshness with it, but still it keeps it very low, and there's a nice savoriness in the beginning, which is coming up and which is kind of now filling my palate. Very, very beautiful. And in the end, there's a nice hint of grassiness still, but the grassiness is really kind of pushed down. It is not really noticeable when you just drink the normal tea, but as soon as you have a little bit these grass particles, or with the smaller particles of the tea in the beginning, in the end, there you can really kind of have this nice flavor profile of grassiness, which is coming a little bit in the tea. And now this is the most interesting brewing, so I can show it to you close. Now we have a very beautiful, beautiful, even more green color of the water, and you can see that how beautiful the green color develops with the second steeping. And this is also the most color strong steeping as well, so you can really see how beautiful the green fills up the cup, and the intensity of the color is very, very impressive. And this is really the cell membranes which are softer, and they're giving this full color to the tea. And then you have a beautiful, beautiful green color, which you can see. You can even see my finger behind the liquid. So this is very, very, very intense. And this is definitely the greenest tea which exists. And in terms of taste, still very beautiful, kind of smooth, sweet. There's a little bit of a citrusy note now coming out, and it is really the suppressed astringency. It is still present, but it's only kind of showing itself with a small astringency, which is kind of a citrusy note. And in the end, you really have a nice savory, kind of full-bodied savory tone which is coming up. So this tea definitely a kind of a small insider tip, I would say, because this is not so much known. We often talk about sencha, we talk about gyokuro, but the Fukamachi sencha, which is kind of a subgroup, or like this typical deep steamed tea, is not so much known, but it is something, once you kind of adapt it a little bit to this nice full-bodied and savory taste profile, it's hard for you to get loose of the beautiful Fukamachi. So you can really see how beautiful this green is. Good. Okay, so coming back to the question of Jorge, definitely if you want to go for a smoother tea, then, or sweeter tea, then go for the shaded tea. Even when it's naturally shaded, the tea often have a little bit of dryness because they're still touched by the sun, because the sun is walking around throughout the day. So the best is, if you want to have a smooth and sweet tea, then try to go for a shaded tea like the Gyokuro. Or if you want to save a little bit of money, you might aim for a Fukamachi, which is just a little bit better in price per gram, but also shows this a nice, beautiful and sweet tone. Good. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you like this one. And don't forget, if you ever have a question, please ask me. I'll be happy to cover it. And I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.